podcast,
Hey everybody.
As I promised,
Hope
I
you're
have
doing
scientists
well.
that I will interview using your questions. So, but before we begin, this is Dr. Daniel, my dad. And
How do you do?
so, Dr. Daniel, what do you do before I start asking the
Okay,
questions?
I am a plant scientist. I work with plants and primarily I work for the growers. So growers have a lot of pest control problems, so I help them grow their crops, grow healthy crops so they have plenty of food to feed people.
Okay. And now we'll begin with the questions you sent me. So, this question is from EP. How do you answer the questions that you come up with?
How do I answer them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to think about them and make sure I have good facts to back them up before I answer them. So, if it's related to my research, then I have to look at the data to make sure I get the correct answers as well. So, always want to make sure I answer my questions with good facts as opposed to things that may or may not be true.
Okay. And now our next question is from KU. What kinds of experiments do you do?
We do experiments mostly with what we call plant protection products. Some people call them pesticides, but we call them plant protection products because it's not just chemical products, but it's also biological products. The growers today are very advanced and they use a wide spectrum of products, much different than in the past. It's usually pest specific. So if we're doing residue, so we want to know if the grower uses the product, are there any residues of that plant protection product on the crop? We will collect the crops after they've been treated, and then we analyze them in the laboratory to see if there's any residues left, and then we provide that data to EPA so then they can make a decision if it's safe or not for consumers and for the growers.
And then to piggyback on that, GM and KP would like to know how you do your experiments.
So we work with universities across the country. So if we're doing a study on carrots, for example, we often have studies all across the country. So maybe University of Wisconsin, California. We have sites in UC Davis, University of California, Davis. We have Texas, Florida, Michigan. So we'll do sites at all those areas. They'll treat the crop, then they harvest it. And then we also have analytical labs at the same land-grant universities. It's kind of the typical state universities. They'll analyze the samples, and then we will write the reports and give it to EPA. And Rutgers is actually the headquarters, so that's where I work, is at the headquarters office.
And then KM would like to know, how are medicines made?
Medicines are made. So in this case, we're really talking about medicines for plants. So to keep plants healthy, just like you have to take your medicines when you get sick or something. So we make the medicines, like I mentioned earlier, either chemical medicines or some biological products also protect plants too. So they may, if there's insects attacking plants, then it may be a biological product that actually will kill the insect, but not the plant.
And then, since you mentioned insects, do you study or have you studied about animals?
Animals?
Yeah.
No, not really studied them specifically. I had some animal science classes when I was in college, and then I also grew up on a farm. So we raised chickens, pigs, cows. We also had dogs and cats and ducks. But that's probably the extent of my studying of animals.
JA would like to know if scientists know everything.
No, scientists, what we learn as scientists is that there's so much that we don't know. The more we know, the more we don't know. So that's why we're always asking questions.
And then one of the last things I taught the kids was about water. So one of my students would like to know why the ocean has salty water, but why is the water that we drink fresh water or not salty?
Okay, so So the reason the sea has salty water is kind of like the same reason we have sand on the beaches. There's a lot of rocks which have lots of minerals and whatnot in them. So as the rain hits them and the water hits them, those rocks turn into salt into the sea. So as they wear down from the different environmental things that happen to them, then it releases a salt or minerals into the seawater. The reason we don't have that in ours is because when you filter the water, you want to get rid of the salt. Obviously, too much salt makes us all sick. So what they'll do is they will filter the water to remove the salts. And also, as the water, goes out through rivers and creeks and everything, and eventually it makes its way out to the sea. So before it goes out there, we call it fresh water, and there's really not so much salt and rain, and because of the rain, there's not so much salt and whatnot in our lakes and rivers. So it's a little bit easier to clean that water than it would be to clean the ocean water, the sea water.
And then our final question for the day comes from GB. Do you like being a scientist?
Oh, I really like being a scientist. So being a curious person, being a scientist is probably one of the best careers, I think. So I'm always asking questions. It's always something new. So yeah, I enjoy it very much.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Dr.
Thank
Daniel.
you. Well, hopefully sometime I'll get to meet all you too, but it was nice to be interviewed. And if you have any more questions, just ask Mrs. Kunkel and she'll relay them back to me, I assume.
Yeah, we'll record another video so you can get more answers.
Okay. Take care, everyone.